I don't know who needs to hear this, but this scene is not an accurate depiction of events. It conflicts with all other lore, ranging from Kitana Rabble to Hythlodaeus' Shade in Amarat, to the Anamnesis and Eider cutscene in Shadowbringers, to the Erar Curtain Falls short story, to Hydaelyn's own dialogue after the Mother Crystal in Endwalker. I have seen people refer to this cutscene as being literal, and I feel it's important to clarify that it is not. The Sundering occurred as a result of Hydaelyn's decisive blow against Zodiark being so strong it sundered both him and the star. This is stated by both Emet-Selch and Hydaelyn herself.
And so they fought, and they fought, and they fought, and in the end, Hydaelyn was victorious. With all her strength, she smote him, dealing a blow so devastating that it split the very fabric of reality. As a counterbalance to Zodiark, Hydaelyn was created with the power to enervate her foe. This singular ability strikes not at such banal things as flesh, but everything that defines the target, diluting its existence. Do you see? This self-same fate befell not only Zodiark, but the very star.
When confronted with the almighty Zodiark, my only recourse was rend him and the world asunder, that his power be diminished for a time.
Venat's transformation into Hydaelyn transpires after her disciples reach a consensus, following a meeting one of them had with the Convocation that did not achieve their desired result. The precursor to her ritual is shown in the recording at Anamnesis and Eider, corroborated by the short story A Friendship of Record, and further remarked upon by the Watcher in Omega Beyond the Rift. It was not something she did by herself in the street. It's stated in Erar Curtain Falls, the people were divided, unable to decide what to do with the future that now stretched out before them. All were at our wits' end.
Reconciliation. Elidibus. I was needed. I withdrew myself from Zodiark. For them.
Elidibus is nowhere in sight, nor are any other Convocation members. It's 15 random, nameless ancients in a plaza who by all appearances seem to be trying to sacrifice themselves, as there's no new life to be seen either. Their argument also doesn't match with previous discussions of the third sacrifice. Per Erar Curtain Falls, many wished to trade the new life which had sprung forth to reclaim those lost in sacrifice to Zodiark. Per Hythlodaeus in Mare Lamentorium, we remember in vivid detail the events leading to our purgatory, the plans and plots for our resurrection. Per his shade in Amarat created by Emet-Selch, the Convocation decided thus: we would nurture our world until it was bursting with vitality. Then, when the time was right, we could offer some portion of its living energy to Zodiark. In return, he would restore to us those brethren whose souls had fed his strength, and together we would resume our roles as stewards. The aim of the third sacrifice, as formulated by the Convocation after the world was restored, was to release the souls within Zodiark, but there's no mention of this in the cutscene, only vagaries of a perfect paradise free of sorrow. The sky is aflame, the streets are littered with the corpses of ancients felled by terminus beasts, the city lies in ruins, and Therion can be seen flying in the background. There's no evidence of the first sacrifice having halted the final days, or the second sacrifice having cleansed and restored life to the world, yet the scene is supposed to be referencing the third sacrifice. It brings into question whether her infamous monologue happened in any capacity. Perhaps henceforth he shall walk was Hydaelyn's battle cry against Zodiark? I struggle with what to call the so-called Sundering cutscene. Symbolic, metaphorical, abridged, stylistic retelling. While it's loosely representative in an inspired by true events sort of way, it's presented with bias while removing anything that could lead to negative impressions of Venat or her actions. Imagine someone telling a story and leaving out anything that would make them look bad. It's dishonest and deliberately manipulative. Amusingly, it meets the definition of disinformation since it's purposely misleading and intended to both influence public opinion and obscure the truth. It's a carefully crafted appeal to emotion, meant to rationalize a violent act, with the focus being on Venat's perspective, how much the Sundering was hurting her, and the people she decimated used as staging for her noble torment. Simply changing the background music from answers to what comes of despair significantly alters the tone of the scene, as well as your perception of Venat and what she's about to do.
You would destroy it? Our beautiful world?
The reliance on Venat's opposition being faceless strawmen could also be considered cowardly, since the sequence would fall apart if they were replaced with any developed ancient character. Try to imagine Emet-Selch or Elidibus debating Venat in that scene instead of a caricature. Elidibus being particularly problematic because we'd then be reminded there were no small number who were in opposition to the third sacrifice, which would undermine Venat's argument that the ancients as a whole were incapable of change, and we wouldn't have gotten the powerful imagery of her standing alone against a mob. Had the scene not been disingenuous, I would comment on how tone-deaf it was to have her approach grief-stricken and traumatized survivors of an extinction-level event, tell them to essentially forge ahead and abandon the souls of their loved ones within Zodiark indefinitely, especially when Venat's not shown to have taken any measures to help mitigate the destruction wrought by the final days. It's a reminder of how easy it is to get swept up in a narrative, to fall to victim blaming, and convince yourself that massacring a population is a necessary evil as long as you're suitably distracted by beautiful music, symbolism, and a charismatic person.